come to the Thursday night yoga class before, it is kind of a vinyasa class. It's vinyasa, but I also get a little bit playful with it. And so we're going to start tonight with a restorative pose, which is going to be a restorative child's pose. Now, you can do child's pose with no extra things. You can just get into child's pose if you like. What I've got here is a pillow so that it's a little bit more restorative. So I'm going to prop myself up with my chest on the pillow. You could also put a blanket underneath your shins if your knees are sometimes a little cranky. So that can make it a little bit softer, a little bit more relaxed. And we'll stay for a little bit. So it's worth it maybe to stack up some pillows or blankets so it's a little more cozy. You can put your toes closer together or wider apart. Just see what it feels like to you. And then let yourself relax. Mostly for me, this pose is sort of like climbing into a cave. Just gives me a chance to let go, get present, and just pay attention to the breath. For about the same amount of time. So I'm going to turn my head the other way. You can do little movements. You can go in and out of the pose a little bit if you like. Gently bring yourself out of that shape and decide how you want to go from here. I'm going to do some little rounds of sort of cat-like shapes, maybe some little circles with the ribs. You could go back to downward dog if that's a better idea for you and do it that way. Just move around a bit. laying on the belly. It might be nice to start with some little windshield wipery moves. Legs a chance to come all the way straight. And then you come around for some cobra. So coming in and out. In. Just a few more on the breath. And then coming up for a Sphinx pose, put your elbows on the floor so that it feels like it's a pretty good placement. You've got not too much sort of a sense that the shoulders are coming up to grip around the ears. So for me, a little bit forward, the shoulders slightly closer together than shoulder distance. And then I'm going to take the head and try to find like the most neutral position here. And then turn and look up over one shoulder. And back to the center and turn and look up over the other shoulder. I'm just going to do that a few times. Just looking over each shoulder, just noticing the sensations in the side of the neck. One side a little bit easier to rotate into than the other. Get back to the center. And you've done both sides an even number of times. Take your hands out kind of wide. I like to do kind of like a little spidery finger. And then lift up. So I have a little bit of room to move. So right shoulder forward, pull the left shoulder back and in. Come back to the center, left shoulder forward, right shoulder back and in. And then back. And then just kind of swirling between those two. Now, we're going to take the left leg all the way up and around and come up to a seated position. So that I wind up with the left leg in this kind of Janushirasana shape and then fold forward over your right leg. Now, you can bend the knee. I don't know if your hamstrings are ready for this yet. Test it out. How ready are they? Take 2 more big breaths. Alright, so I'm going to release. Come all the way back to the cobra. Do that 4 times. Take your right leg, bring it all the way up, follow it along, and now it might be off your screen a little bit, we'll find out, but I'm in the Janushirasana shape, left leg forward, and then kind of find your way in. So I've got my knee bent a bit, I'm lengthening my back, just seeing how far the pelvis wants to go forward into that stretch. I push on the gas and let go, and push on the gas and let go. Nice big breath. And then we're going to come back around. This time we're going to go into downward dog. if this is the first time, then give your downward dog leg all the little love. And if this is your second one, you can hold it more still. Now, when you're ready, bring your hands and feet together. I've got my feet wiggled out pretty wide, and my toes are mostly pointing forward. If that causes trouble, I'll turn them out when I get there. So we're gonna sway over to the right, and then sway over to the left. And I'm letting my knee bend a little bit, just kind of finding a nice balance of sensation in the back of the leg, sensation in the side waist. Shifting back and forth. Seeing how it goes for you. Alright, now I've done each one an even number of times. So we come back to the center, pick it up halfway, exhale, fold it in as far as it'll go, straighten out. And then I'm just going to heel toe my feet until they're closer together. Hanging out with the forward bend for just a little bit longer, and then coming all the way up to standing. Take your time. Give yourself a big stretch when you get to the top. Oh. All right, now, if you're at the top of your mat, awesome. If you're not quite at the top of your mat, get there. If you're not using a mat, just make sure there's room behind you for movement. I'm going to fix my little wardrobe malfunction situation here and find myself in a mountain pose. All right. So finding mountain pose feels like pose to do right now, or to at least get really curious about. And I stand a little bit vulnerable without getting hard or fierce or locking out. Just be present. So we're going to come into chair pose. Shift the weight to the right leg, pick the left leg up. Bring it into a bit of a balance. Maybe the balance doesn't work out exactly like this. It could be across your shin. You could have just the toe on the ground. So you've got a little options. Take a nice big breath. Stand up tall. We're going to step back into a high lunge. It's always fun to see if I can do that without falling over. All right. So then, I'm going to pick up the top rim of my pelvis a little bit, bend my back knee slightly to make more room for my low back. Keep the front knee nice and strong. Adjust to the wobble. Taking one more breath. And I'm going to fold forward now. I'm going to take this back heel and move it just a little closer so I can see if I can get my whole foot on the ground. And then I'm going to see if I can straighten out that front leg. And I'm going to pulsate for a second between straight and bent. So go in a little straighter, bringing the hip around to level, bend in the knee, letting myself lean in. Go in a little straighter, bringing my hips around to level, just kind of noticing where that tugs. Bringing my hips around. I'm going to make my feet a little wider apart, side to side rather than long ways. How that changes things. It's a little bit comfortable. And now I'm going to hold steady. Okay, breathe in deep. Again, a little bend of the knee would be okay too. Just do the right thing for you. I'm using blocks because I like them. Do you. Last breath here. All right, Now before we take a downward dog, we're going to take the left leg up and pause with that balance. Now you can keep your hands on the blocks or bring the hands up and see if you can balance without them. Catch the ball. Okay, last breath. And then put your hands down and step back and into downward dog. So notice the two sides of the body, left side, right side. We're going to come forward. Maybe you're going to do a plank. Maybe you're going to modify that plank so that you've got a nice slope hug in the navel. Hold it steady for one more breath. And then exhale. Now you can lower halfway and come into up dog or come all the way into cobra. And we're going to pick up the left leg and bring it around. Now you can bring it around the same way we did last time and put it into the Janu Shirsasana shape, or you can put it on the top of the shin so you come into the gate pose shape. So this foot's around behind. If your foot will pull back a little bit more, you can do that. You can also open that thigh back a little bit more. And then we're going to side bend, or this leg can be back in the shape we did earlier, and you side bend. Okay? Either way, your pose. Again, you can explore the pose. It's your pose. You might as well see what's going on in there. And not to just move, but to see, like, where are the places that are a little bit tighter? Where does the breath kind of come in a little better? Last big breath here. And then we're going to swing this all the way back around into our cobra. Or you could substitute an upward dog there. Right leg comes around, finds its way on the floor in the shape that works best for you. And then side bend. One more big breath. Coming all the way up, bringing it all the way back and into downward facing dog. And then just finding that shape for a moment. Now you can take a big leap up to the top of the mat, or step 1, 2, up to the top of the mat, come up halfway. Exhale, fold. Come all the way to standing. Give it a big stretch. And find your mountain pose. I love this moment. Like every time I land back in a pose, whether it's downward dog, because that's kind of a repetitive pose, or a cobra, or a mountain pose, it's an opportunity to notice. Is it the same? Has anything changed? My right side feels like a little bit bigger, a little bit more muscular. Just feels different. There's some energy that I've put into the muscles on that side that I haven't yet on the other side. So let's do it. Taking a chair pose. Weights going into the left leg, right leg's coming into the balance. And again, any version of the balance is cool. Do your version. Sometimes balance is tricky. We do our best. Taking a big inhale. Okay, we're going to pick this leg up and step back into a high lunge. Theoretically staying upright. Who knows if it works out or not? And then just hold and steady. You can add a little movement if it's feeling better. Again, I have a slight bend in my back knee so I can really get my pelvis lifted and my low back happy. feeling that stretch right there through the front of my right thigh, which is all, that's what we're here for. Like, and all the balance challenge. But that's the nice thing about a lunge. All right, so we're gonna try, see what happens if I see if I can get this foot all the way down. So probably I'm gonna bring it in a little notch, keep this knee bent, fold forward. And then I'm just gonna oscillate between a straight leg, level pelvis, and then bending that knee and seeing where that takes me. Alrighty. And last time, it felt better to have a little more width right to left between my feet, and it feels better again this time, so I'm just checking that out. It might not always hold true on both sides. On the right side, my calf muscle is much tighter on that side. Ooh. And so then once you've kind of figured things out, pause for a moment, breathe. One more big breath. All right, so again, before we go back into our down dog, we're gonna take that warrior three shape. So starting, maybe the hands just stay on the blocks. Maybe it feels okay to get your hands off the blocks. And for me, the left side's a little bit weaker. It's not as strong, so it feels nice sometimes to hold onto the thigh. So give it that little bit of extra support. Ooh, on that butt cheek. Last breath. Okay, we're gonna step it on back into down dog. Notice. Come forward into plank. Or maybe that's a full plank. Or maybe it's a modified plank. Hold it steady. One more. And then we'll lower down. Come into your cobra or your upward dog. Left leg comes up. We're going to put the foot on the ground so that it's nice and solid. I'm going to press down into this right leg. I've got my elbow on the floor. I'm going to lift my hip up and then come back down. You can come up to your hand if that works a little better for you. If your wrist is tender, stick with the elbow. Lift up. Sit it back down. One more time. Lift it up. Sit it back down. Coming all the way back. Cobra. Or upward dog. Right leg comes around. All right. Again, maybe we only lift a little bit. It's a lot of strength we're talking about here. So if all it is, oh, I just think about lifting, that's okay too. If you can get the hip up and stretch over, do that. It's fun. It's the extra work. Lift up. And down. And one more time, lift up. And down. And we're coming back around right into down dog. Feel. Is it different? And again, we might jump up to the top of the mat, or you might take 1, 2 steps, or a whole bunch of little ones. Come up halfway, exhale, fold, come all the way to standing. Give it a big stretch, yogis. And then, once again, we're gonna find our mountain pose. Last time I visited this pose, I felt a big difference down the right side compared to the left side, but now it feels much more even. And compared to the first time I did the mountain pose, I swear that my my shoulders have broadened out a little bit. That's interesting. All right, so we're gonna shift the weight into the right leg. The left leg is gonna come into a tree. Now you can put your foot on your thigh, or on your calf, or down by your ankle, which whatever works best for you. You can have branches that are up here, or branches that are down here. Me and my plants have different ideas about branches, so I might keep mine lower, just so I don't interfere. Taking a nice big breath. We're going to pick this left foot up, and we're stepping back into a warrior one shape. Now, difference between the Highland and the warrior one is very minor. It's just getting that heel to the ground. There's a little more of a diagonal in the hip, and I'm still going to face the front. Okay, so I'm going to bend the knee. Now, what I don't want to do is try to force this hip to come around, because that can cause trouble for the knee. Some people have a lot of flexibility in their ankle joint and even potentially in their knee joint, and they can get away with that, but I can't. So I have a lot more stability in my joints than bendiness. So I go for the stable place. I'm pushing this leg backwards as I'm pushing this leg forward. So I've got really anchored legs. And then bring the arms up, peel the elbows back so that it's like you're trying to squeeze your shoulder blades together, and then push forward and let the shoulder blade come all the way off the edge. Bring it up, push them together, push them forward. Bring them up, push them together, push them forward. Now you could wrap your arms behind your back. That's a really nice way to get a shoulder opener. You can use a strap that way. I'm going to use my yoga blocks in a very specific way in just a moment. So first we're going to start with a humble warrior. So I'm coming into the diagonal. So my torso now sort of matches up with the angle of my hip. So it might be a little closer to the leg or a little farther away depending on you. I'm going to reach these blocks way out in front of me so it's almost like downward dog when I come into this bend. And this lets me do a little bit of extension in my shoulder joint that it's hard to get if I'm weight bearing. But since the weight's all in my legs, I can do this delightful opening in the shoulders. Take nice deep breaths. One more. Now, before I go into down dog, I'm going to take another balancing pose while I'm here. I'm going to tucker my hips out tonight, and probably yours while we're at it. So I'm going to take the left leg up. I'm going to leave the left arm down. I'm going to turn my waist to the right and reach through that left leg. So I've got a nice revolved half moon. You can look down for better balance or up for a little bit more challenge. See how deep that twist wants to go. Take one more breath. And then we're going to unwind and step back into down dog. And oh, I love the way this feels. There's a lovely sensation in the hip there. Whee! All right, doing your full plank or your modified plank. Really draw that navel in, lift the chest, hold it steady. Ooh, curl the tailbone under if you're modifying that plank. One more breath. Beautiful. Then we lower down. Maybe it's a cobra. Maybe it's an up dog. We're going to take this left leg and bring it around. Foot on the ground. Follow it all the way up. And then we're going to twist towards our left. So sit up nice and tall. You might need to bend this right knee a little bit. Twist towards your left. Grab hold of that left leg with your right hand. Don't pull yet. Just hold. Then sit up a little taller. Engage this right leg so the toes point up and you're kind of digging your heel in a little bit. And then take the right shoulder blade, bring it forward, and the left shoulder blade and swirl it back. Now if you want to do something different with your arms, cool. Let the back of your neck be long and look back over that left shoulder and hold steady, yogis, and breathe. One more big breath. We're gonna unwind, flip this whole thing all the way back around, coming back to the cobra, or maybe even up dog, I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna feel good or not. Right leg comes up and over. Put that guy on the ground, follow it through. All right, bend your left knee a little bit. Sit up tall, turn towards your right, hold on with your hand. Hold on, sit up tall. Really dig that side in so your pelvis is nice and level. This left shoulder blade is coming forward. Right shoulder blade is going backward. Hand to the floor if you got it. Now you can do whatever you want with your arm. Sit up tall. And if your head says yes, turn your head to the right and breathe. Two more. We're gonna bring it back. Unwind it. We're going all the way back over, but this time to down dog. See what happens. Oh. Can you feel a difference in your body? Again, you can hop to the top of the mat, or take one and then another step. Come up halfway, exhale, fold, and then come all the way to standing when you're ready. Oh, give it a stretch. Oh. We're gonna take that mountain pose. Again, like it's it's our touchstone tonight, in between rounds, just feeling where this pose lands us. Is there a difference? Now it's very different for me on the right side and the left side, but this time my right side feels more relaxed. My right shoulder feels lower than my left. I don't know why. But again, it's just these little moments where we check in, see what's happening. Weight's going into the left leg. The right leg is going to come into your tree version, whichever version is right for you. And maybe your arms are up, or they're down, or they're in the center. Whatever is going to work given the circumstances. Taking a nice big breath. We're going to pick up this right leg, step ourselves back into warrior one. Okay? So just find that sort of sense of the diagonal. The foot's all the way on the ground. It's its own little shape. Be mindful of your hip. Make sure you like the way things are going. Oh, and then do the arm work. One more. All right, yogis. Ooh, we're folding it in. And again, you can do bound hands, or whichever version you like. You can do this little downward dog version of the humble warrior, if that works for you, with blocks. Stay strong in your legs. Take deep breaths. We're going to come up, and I'm going to bring myself into that revolved half moon. So right leg's going up, right hand staying down, okay? And then I'm going to twist towards my left and reach through my right leg. Trying to find that nice twist as close to level with my hips as I can, so I work the strength into this left hip. Good. One more big breath. We're going to come out of there and step back into down dog. Notice how that lands you. Coming into your plank, whether it's a full plank or modified, holding it for 3 big breaths. Keep those connections. One more. And we're lowering down, coming into our back bend. Picking the right leg up, or sorry, left leg up, rolling it all the way to the right, sitting up tall. Now, I'm back in that same shape I was in last time, but we're gonna do a different shape, a different pose. So we're gonna fold forward here and wrap the left arm around the front of the left shin. Now, I cannot get my foot tight up against my thigh, so the chances of me being able to bind my hands behind me are pretty slim. So I could either use a strap there, or I'll show you what I do. So we're gonna fold forward, bend this knee as much as you need to. Wrap your left arm around. I put both my sit bones on the floor, and then I just put this arm around behind me, and this arm I'm just kind of wrapping into that bind, all right? Now you could fold forward as far as your body says is okay. Some people can touch their forehead to their shin. That may not be possible. Just fold as much as it makes sense. Do the bind with the arms. Now, what we're gonna do is let this left leg get really heavy so it opens up and pulls a bit on our shoulder. And that is really a lovely way to use this crazy bind to get some good stuff. So feel this shoulder kind of opening out as you hold this shape. 2 more breaths. All right, so you're gonna release the bind if you're bound. We're gonna come all the way back around for the cobra. And I don't wanna do cobra right away because that's a deep forward bend. So I'm gonna do this little baby cobra. Just a little bitty baby. And I'm gonna do it again. Little bitty baby. And then I'm gonna do the opposite side. Right leg goes around. Just trying to stay mostly in your screen. I don't know if that's working, but whoa. All right, so then I fold in, wrap the arm around the front, okay? That's as far as it's gonna go for me. You might be able to catch hands. This leg turns on, and then I bring myself forward. Release your neck a bit, and breathe. One more breath. Letting that shoulder open up over here. Oh, let go. We're going all the way back around, this time into downward dog. Take a moment. And feel how that dog landed. And again, when you're ready, you can jump it up to the top of the mat or take a couple of big steps. Come up halfway. Exhale, fold. Come all the way to standing. Ooh, sorry, buddy. Oh, give it a big stretch. And then we're going to come to the top. And again, find our touchstone pose, this mountain pose. I need a little shimmy. And then a mountain. Again, there's this kind of really interesting sort of sense now. Last time I got here, after both sides, I felt like my shoulders were like a little more powerful, and now I feel like my shoulders have dropped an extra inch away from my ears, which is quite pleasant actually, but just notice what's true for you. Maybe nothing. That's all right too. So we're gonna shift the weight into the right leg. We're gonna take our left leg and bring up the knee, and that might be all that happens. If you have a mind to do it, you can either use a strap or you can use your hand to hang on to your foot. And I like to do this with a little bit of structure, so I'm gonna hold on to something, and then you extend the leg out front. Okay? Get yourself started here. When this starts to fall apart, it's not easy to re-catch. So walls and furnishings can be useful for this while you're building strength. Good, release that, and step it back into warrior two. Now, it's a little bit more open. Now I'm not turning my hips all the way sideways because that draws my thigh forward, right? There are people with super crazy space in their hip joint, and they might be able to pull that off, but I cannot. So I keep this leg tracking forward so that it feels like my knee is aiming towards my littler toes, and then wherever the hip falls is where the hip falls. Now you can rotate the torso. The trouble with that for me is it makes this shape pinchy, but if I leave my torso lined up with my hip, this shape becomes really lovely, this moon warrior or reverse warrior shape. So we're gonna take a moment and explore both this shape and the side angle shape. And I'm gonna flow in and out a couple times, and then I'm gonna hold one. So I'm gonna go for this shape because that's feeling really nice. I might go for the reverse warrior. Now I'm gonna come all the way up. Rotate the feet around so that they're pointing a little more forward. They can point out slightly, but just more on the even side. And then fold into a wide angle forward bend. Now you get to decide, like, do you reach backwards? Do you grab your ankles? Do you put your elbows on the floor? That's up to you. See if you can kind of press the feet in and slightly widen through the sit bones. See what that feels like. Rinse out any tension from your neck if that's available. Last breath. All right, so we're going to transform this into a half moon balance, and this time without the twist. So, taking the left leg up, open it out nice and wide. Lift from the hip, lift from your core. Whee! Bring the knee in nice and tight. And then we'll step it back into downward dog. That was a roundabout pose. But I'm here. And feel that right butt cheek. Doesn't that feel amazing? Oh, that's good. All right, yogis. So we'll find our plank for 3 breaths, with or without the modifications. One more. And then lowering down and coming into the back bend of your choice. Gonna pick this left leg up, bring it around. Now, we're gonna take this leg and bring it over the top of the right leg. And some of us are gonna be able to bring this knee right over top of this knee. If that's not gonna work, then you're gonna do shins across each other, okay, which is what I'm gonna do. So my left shin is sitting on top of my right shin. If I try to put it up on top of my thigh and my hip isn't ready for that notion, then it's gonna cause my knee trouble, and I don't wanna trouble my right knee. So this is gonna work out better. So we're gonna fold forward, maybe. See if it's even available to you to fold. And then we'll pause with this little half cow face pose. I'm trying to, as best I can, keep a sense of length in my spine. Got a little bend in this knee on the right side. And you can lasso your foot with that strap or a towel, a long ponytail, whatever you got. Two more breaths. Now again, this can be kind of an intense pose. So as I come back to my center, I may or may not be super big on this little baby cobra. Just be a little baby cobra. Just a little sense of loosening and engaging through the legs and turning on the back muscles. Right leg comes over. Bring myself to sitting. Again, maybe the knee overlaps the knee. Maybe it's a shin over a shin. And then sit up nice and tall and fold if you can forward. All right. Half cow face pose. Ardha Gomukhasana. Breathe in, yogis. I don't know why I had to sing that. It's not a musical. 2 more breaths. There are times when the level of goof is ridiculous. Alright, we're gonna let go. This is turning itself back into downward facing dog. And then feel. How's it going? And then you either hop or walk to the top of your mat. Come up halfway. Exhale, fold. Come all the way to standing. Give it a big stretch. And then find your mountain pose. Now it feels like my right butt cheek is about 4 times bigger than my left butt cheek. I want a badonk-a-donk on both sides. So I'm going to do these balancing poses. We'll see how it goes. All right. So again, for me, it helps something to hold on to. And I don't have anything on this side. So it's possible that this will go horribly awry. But I'm going to do my best to try to give myself this standing balance pose, holding onto the strap. We're going to take 2 more breaths. Good. And then we're going to take that off and step back into warrior 2. And I didn't break a tooth. So hopefully you didn't either. We're all good together. So we're here. Find the warrior 2 that feels like the right amount. And you can just hold one of these 2 poses or follow me through some movement first and then a hold. And then I'm going to snuggle into a side angle pose. One more big breath. All right. So we're going to turn this into our wide angle forward bend. And I'm going to use my blocks again this time, way out front, so that I can kind of pull myself into more of a squat, and then straight legs, and lean back. And I'll do that a couple times. More of a squat, and straight legs, and lean back. You get to do it your way. All right, yogis, we're gonna turn this into our half moon balance on this side. So the left leg is gonna hold us. We're gonna take it up and stretch it out, and maybe it works out. And maybe we fall a whole bunch. Whew, starting to get tired, it's getting wobbly. Take one more big breath, knee and elbow together, and step back into down dog. And then, feel where it landed us here. Now you can come forward into your plank. Hold that or hold the modification. Draw that navel in nice and firm. Last breath. We're going to come down for either a cobra or an upward dog. Now, I'm going to take this left leg, and this guy we're going to bring into a pigeon shape. So, you might go back to down dog. So rather than flip it over, you might go back to dog. Or you can do a seated version. So we take the left leg, bring it around behind, just like we've done 100, it's probably not been 100 times really, but it's been a few. So that leg is gonna stay on the floor. I'm gonna lean back and put my right leg up on top. And that's a seated version. And you can lay down if you want. Same arrangement, just a reclining pigeon. And the legs can come in, or you can just bring the one leg in and the other leg can be straight. Be mindful of your knee here. And then breathe, yogis, whatever choice you made. Nice deep breaths. Okay, we're going to take a nice big breath. So whichever version you were doing, we're going to turn this thing back into our cobra. So rolling it back around, doing a little cobra pose. Or maybe there's an up dog in your life. And then you're going to do the opposite leg. So your choice, whether it's regular pigeon or the seated pigeon, or the laying down version of the pigeon. That's up to you, friends. Pick your one. Which one's right for you tonight? Hang in for a bit and breathe in. Nice deep breaths. Yogis, we're going to take a nice big breath. We're going to let go. Now we're going to come to a seated position. So you can come out of your pose and take just a moment to give yourself a little rinse. Whether that's sitting or otherwise. Just rinse out your legs a little bit. Now we've done a bunch of these kind of asymmetric flows. So we've done one side and then the other side, one side and the other side. And that creates some balance, but we're gonna do a few poses that are symmetrical, starting with a butterfly shape. So bring in the legs in, and however far they'll come in. So if you can get the heels all the way to your groins, awesome. If not, wherever they'll come in. You don't want to cause any trouble for your knees, so be mindful. And we're going to do this more as a, like a staff pose, Dandasana. So we're going to sit up nice and tall and draw the shoulders down the back a bit. And you can hold on to the shins or the ankles whenever your arms are long enough to reach. And then we're going to try to roll the thigh outward and down, okay? So without causing any trouble for the knee, we're actively drawing the thigh around and towards the ground. So it's like the inner thighs are rolling up and the outer thighs are drawing down. Just hold and steady with some breaths there. And notice how this becomes a little bit like that Tadasana, that mountain pose, you know? Kind of sense of tallness, even though we're rooted into the earth a bit with the sit bones. Different foundation, similar sort of sense of stability within vulnerability, maybe. All right, so take one more big breath here. And then we're going to just relax the effort for a moment. You can straighten your legs out. And then just pause for a second and feel what happened. Now this one for me is quite subtle, right? The sensations are quite subtle. But there is still a sensation in my back. And some poses, when I hold them or come out of them, give me a sense of almost like I've built up the muscle in my back. There's this kind of real sturdy, strong sensation. And some poses make me feel really, really relaxed and soft and receptive. So just notice what happens for you. Maybe none of the above is true, but notice what is happening. Okay, so we're gonna do same shape, but in a different way. So we're gonna push the feet out in front of us, so we've got a really big diamond. Now some people refer to this as star pose, and it's essentially a variation on the tortoise. So the tortoise pose is one where when you fold forward, you thread your arms underneath your legs, so that from the top, your back kind of looks like a turtle shell, and your little hands sticking out sort of resemble the little flippers from the turtle, okay? So that is, you can certainly do that if you like. I'm gonna keep this a much softer version. So I'm kicking my hips up and kind of leaning forward so I can get my pelvis really forward. And then I'm gonna let my back round like a little turtle shell. I'm not gonna do the threaded arms. I'm simply gonna rest my arms on my legs. But you are welcome to do whatever's right for you. It is kind of an interesting shoulder thing when you get the arms under there. So for that reason, it might be fun. I'm after the sensation of my low back opening, so I can breathe into that low back. I want to feel the little muscles that live between my rib cage and my low back in a very gentle, kind of breath-induced stretch. So don't be too aggressive. Let the breath do most of the work. These muscles can be delicate, and if you've ever injured them, they don't always trust you. So be kind. Now we're going to take a nice big breath. Hold that air in, kind of lengthen back up, and then come back out with the pelvis. And again, you can unwind your legs and give yourself a little bit of movement. So, yogis, we're forward bending shapes. Now you get to choose between having the legs straight but close together. That's the Paschimottanasana, or the seated fold of the west, your backside. Or you can do the Upavista Konasana, the wide angle forward bend where the legs are out in a broad angle. So you get to decide. Now I like to have a little blanket underneath my knees when I do these straight legged poses, because again, this, just a little, like sometimes I can feel a little vulnerability there. So for me, I back it up with a blanket. Now you don't have to do that. You can keep the knees a little bent and really engage the top of the thigh, which I'm going to do also. But this is just a little backup. So a little rolled up blanket under the knees can give me just that little extra bit of support. Now, make sure that blanket is nice and smooth and soft, because anything poking the back of your knee can be tricky. All right, so then we're gonna see if we can fold forward. Now, there's a sizable portion of the population that cannot fold forward in this pose, because the legs, when they come into this shape, it doesn't work, so you might do those closer legs, okay? And then bend your knees a little bit and kind of engage the legs like we did kind of earlier with some of those poses that we rolled out of Cobra into. And then you can, if you like, kind of reach out and grab hold. And then when I do it this way, I broaden the chest, because this is a great way to get like a little extra chest opener. So it's kind of like I'm pulling the chest muscles out to the sides, letting them hug up against my arm bones. Keep the neck a little bit relaxed, because it'll try to get involved. Try to see if you can let the chest muscles do all that work. And don't be too aggressive at pulling yourself forward. Try to mostly broaden, right? Because you don't want to rip a hamstring. It's not worth it. Or an inner thigh muscle for that matter, adductor. We're going to breathe about 3 more deep breaths here. What you've got, roll yourself back up out of there, bring your legs together or apart, as the case may be, whatever's going to feel better. Oh, give it a little shimmy. Whew. All right, yogis, I have fantastic news. It's time for Shavasana, kind of. We're going to mostly get there. We are, once we get into position, going to do a little happy baby, a little spinal twist, but we're kind of like in the Shavasana territory. So if you want to use a pillow under your legs or a blanket under your head, just have that stuff all ready for yourself. And then come on to your back. Oh, it feels so nice to roll it on down. Oh, that felt good. Once you're here, you can give yourself a little windshield wipers, and that might be enough. Or maybe, there's a little happy baby pose. It's not an attractive yoga pose, probably even less so in these pants, but it's really nice. It feels really good. Maybe a puppy dog version. We'll keep it a little more modest. Oh goodness. All right, I never thought about this stuff before I videotaped myself. All right, y'all. So we're gonna take the legs over to the side. So I'm gonna use my pillow so I can sort of drape this leg a little farther over, and that gets my hip a little more into the stretch. And then as I anchor through my left shoulder, I get a nice stretch through my left pectoralis muscle on the chest. You do it your way. Which way feels good to you? And adjust your head so your neck is happy with you. Oh. So I'm not really sure, just a kind of a reference back, I'm not really sure why I'm slightly obsessed with mountain pose right now, but it just feels like a really interesting meditation to simply stand your ground, right, on some level. And maybe it's kind of a tie-in to the social justice that's going on right now, and it feels like kind of a solidarity, a standing firm or standing tall. Maybe it is like I'm feeling vulnerable because of the kind of global pandemic situation, and so it feels nice to stand tall and be stable and balanced. I don't know exactly, but I am definitely feeling a call to the mountain pose. So come on back to the center. And then, evaluate for yourself, like what poses are kind of calling your name right now. Are there certain poses that feel a little bit more meaningful right now? A little more grounding. It's fun to see. All right, so we're gonna bring the legs around the other way. I'm gonna find that same hip and chest stretch that I like. And then let myself relax into it. Take a nice big breath. And then come on back to the center, and this is where we're just going to slide into our final relaxation, or Shavasana. So if you like, I love support under my legs, especially close to the top of the thigh, because it lets my hip flexor muscles really relax, and that feels really nice. And then this is my new favorite thing to do with a blanket. Take the blanket and sort of cup the back of your skull, and let your head relax into it so that you can feel like that gentle little support. And then just let your head come back to the floor. And release. Oh, it just feels nice. Let your whole body relax, yogis. Don't skip this part. Do this part. It's good for you. It pushes your reset button. Make sure your face is relaxed and your eyes are nice and heavy and soft. Let your eyes get a little bit kinder, so there's a sense of kind of sweet compassion on your face. right, yogis. Good. Take a moment, just notice the breath. Take a nice deep breath. Let go with a sigh. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Give your wrist and ankles some movement. Give yourself a stretch. And one more little back massage for the road. With or without. With or without a squeeze. And then when you're ready, you'll come up to a seated position. So thanks for joining me tonight for some candlelight funky vinyasa flow. Take a big breath. And a sigh. Enjoy the rest of your night, yogis. Namaste. Greetings to your sleeping time.